Well, thank you so much for joining us here on our school board candidates Get to Know program. And they have a candidate called Steven Kizer, right?
Yes, Kizer.
Kizer. And he's one of 7 candidates that are on our program today. Thanks for coming, like I said before. And we're going to get to know you a bit better over this almost 30-minute program.
All right, sounds great.
All right. So I'm going to turn it right over to you. Tell me a little bit about yourself and our viewers to get to know you.
Well, my name's Steven. I came to Marshfield as a 2nd grader. I transplanted here from Michigan. My mother brought me and my 2 brothers here from Michigan, and I started school in Marshfield in 2nd grade. I went to Madison Elementary School in the old school before they rebuilt that school, and spent my entire academic career as a student here in Marshfield, and graduated in 1995. And I really enjoyed my years here. After high school, I soon after joined the United States Marine Corps and had 4 great years as a Marine. It was kind of a love-hate relationship. But I appreciate every single thing that it did for me. I wouldn't change it for the world. And I, from time to time, do kick myself in the rear for not staying in, because I would have some years behind me retired already at this point if I had done that. But again, I wouldn't change any of it for the world. I just felt at the time that after 4 years I was ready to be a civilian again. So here I am in Marshfield, and since coming back to Marshfield, I went to school for respiratory therapy, became a respiratory therapist, and did that for a few years before transitioning into cardiology, where now I work in the cardiac cath lab. And for anybody who doesn't know what that is, to put it in the simplest way, if you're having a heart attack, I'm going to be a face that you see in an attempt to save you. So we put stents and balloons in the arteries of the heart in an effort to open them to regain blood flow to the muscle of the heart. And that's the way that I serve the community. I'm very proud of that work. So that's where I'm at today. And now I have a 7th grader that's in our school system. Her name's Maggie, and extremely proud of her. And now I figure, along with my work at the hospital, what better way to serve the community than getting involved with her education and serving on the school board.
All right. Wow. That is a stressful job that you have, doing, it's not heart transplant, but you're keeping someone alive that's coming in an emergency.
Yes.
Not an easy job. So tell me a little bit why, and you did already, your daughter is in 7th grade, but what led you to do this now?
Well, I heard that there were going to be 3 seats open, and I feel like I owe it to myself. For a little while, we weren't sure if we weren't 100% certain that we were going to remain in Marshfield, and now that we've made the decision that this is going to be home and we're not going to uproot ourselves, I feel like I've been kind of called upon as a duty to at least attempt to go after a seat and sit on the board. I think that it's a big issue that needs to be addressed, is that, and a lot of people are afraid to maybe say these things, but I think that it's necessary, that since the pandemic and everybody trying to handle things in the way that they feel is the right way based on this information and that information, or not really knowing what the right thing was to do, I think it led to, unfortunately, a massive disconnect and quite a significant loss of trust between parents and educators and the school board itself. And I want to chip in and do everything that I can to restore that trust. And I know it's probably not an easy feat, but anything that I can do to work with the teachers and see what their ideas are, to get parents back involved. And this is really the root of why I'm here and why I want to do this, is because as we become adults and we have differences, as the adults ourselves, if we choose to go around and maintain this disconnect and not communicate, that's all fine. But in this scenario, the people that it's ultimately affecting are the students. And if the parents and the teachers are losing that communication and having that wall up between them, the accountability is kind of solely left on the student. There's a lot of accountability taken off of the parent and the teacher when they're not communicating, and the students kind of riding along by themselves because of that wall that's been built. And I think that wall can be taken down, and I want to do everything I can to help do that.
All right. Involvement in the community, organizations that you may be involved or have been involved or want to be involved. Are you in any right now, or have been, that'll maybe help you in this?
Aside from this and my work at the hospital, not really anything in community involvement. On a lighter note, I do live on what we call Halloween Row on 5th Street, where they shut down 5th Street in Marshfield. I'm right in the heart of that, so on Halloween I feel like I kind of serve the community because we get anywhere between, I'd say, 12 to 1,600 trick-or-treaters on Halloween. So it's quite a production. And a lot of, and we actually do get thanked by a lot of parents. We've even gotten postcards in our mailbox saying, hey, thank you for doing this. We always enjoy coming down 5th Street every year. So, I mean, it's not a technical involvement in like an organization or anything, but I feel like it's kind of serving our community, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, it is. It's one of the bigger events.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people look forward to that because we put it out here in the city and close the road for safety there. So I've been there with my kids every year since I've been here 5 years too.
Okay.
So we're about the same time. Well, you've been here longer than 5 years.
Yes, I've been here since, I'm 47, and I was going into 2nd grade when I came to Marshfield.
So you've been here a while. Okay. Any differences between you and other candidates? It might be hard for you to know that because you don't know them probably. So, but maybe watching any of them or seeing any differences that you could point out?
As you stated, I don't know the other candidates. I've met a couple of them, but I don't know what's motivating them to run, so I can't really speak to that necessarily. But I feel like, given my experience as a Marine and given my experience in my current career, that I'm very comfortable in high-stress situations, and I'm not afraid to address the tough issues.
Okay. Well, you mentioned communications, it's key. Is there other issues, 2 top issues that you could like to address that you feel that need to be fixed at all if you get on the school board? Or is there any issues that you want to present?
I think I've been to a few school board meetings, and I feel like we could just work on transparency a little bit and work on the interaction between the board and the community, and just have a little bit more give and take and reciprocation between the two. The school board meetings, when parents get up and express their frustrations, I feel like they probably leave feeling even more frustrated because they don't get any reciprocation. And I don't know if there's anything in the works or anything that I'm just not aware of that maybe takes place outside of these meetings that does get some dialogue going back and forth. If there is, that's great, but I feel like we could always use more of it. I think there needs to be some transparency, and along with that transparency, that will help build the trust between the parents and what's happening within the school district.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to go into this question that kind of relates to what we were talking about a little bit later in, but talking about accessibility into the community, if you're on the board or you see the board now, do you have any specific ideas on how the board can be accessible to the community outside of just the school board being filmed or covered? Are you open to people calling you? You know, I know there's specific laws that have to be watched when you're like a quorum, but between parents and students, is there anything you can do if you were elected on the board?
Well, if elected, I'd be very excited to find out, you know, what the guidelines are as far as appropriately communicating with parents. I mean, I'm certainly open to that and hearing the issues firsthand from them. And but of course, like you said, I mean, I'm not on the board, so I don't know what those guidelines are. But like I said, I'm very excited to find out what they are, and once doing that, you know, search out the different potentials for opening up those lines of communication, and definitely, you know, working towards that.
Well, since we're on the topic of communications, what do you think a good way to communicate is? Is it social media? Is it through the newspaper? Is it through word of mouth? I mean, there's so many forms out there, but what do you think is a good one to start with?
I'm kind of a face-to-face guy. I prefer a conversation or an email. I don't like to text much, and I don't like social media much. I feel like the social media leaves too many doors open for misinterpretation and for emotions to kind of take over, and which is unfortunate. Social media has kind of implanted that into the way things are in this day and age, and like I said, I prefer a face-to-face conversation or a phone call, just so that we can really hear each other without, you know, and the misinterpretations and getting the emotions involved.
True, very, very true. Well, if you are just joining us here in our program, I'm here with Steven Kizer, one of the candidates for the school board in the primary, which is taking place on February 20th. And there are 7 candidates, and we're narrowing it down to 6. So really one won't make it into the general election, but we're interviewing all of them to help the voters out there get to know you guys. So we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be right back asking you the questions about preparing students if you're on the board. What can you do? So we'll be right back.
Okay.
On each episode of The Jet Set, we have your passport to travel, food, lifestyle tips, and fun.
That's right, hang out with us and buckle up for the talk and tips you need to be an expert traveler, live better, and be inspired to embrace the on-the-go lifestyle.
Don't miss The Jet Set right here on Marshfield Now.
All right, welcome back to the program, and thanks for joining us. I'm here with Steven Kizer, one of the candidates. All right, let's move into another set of questions that I had come up with, and this one is, what should the district do, and if you get on the board, do to prepare students to be good citizens?
Well, it's a good question. I think that a lot of that has to do with some of the things that I said earlier, as far as getting the communication lines open between the teachers and the parents, because I know myself, I have a son who graduated recently and is now just starting at the technical college, and my son has autism, and I feel that the school district really did all that they could to help him for the most part, but a lot of the very basic things as far as telling time and counting and certain things like this, and I understand that autism is a very challenging thing, and there's so many different dynamics for each person. I mean, one person might be this way and another. Knowing somebody with autism doesn't mean that you know everyone with autism. Every single one of them is different. So I just really think we need to dig into more resources for students that have different hurdles in life, because a lot of them are afraid to speak up and say, this is what I'm not getting, or this is what I'm having a hard time grasping this. And a lot of times those might seem like little things to a lot of us, but to them it's the whole world. It's going to have a detrimental effect on whether they succeed or not after high school. So the kids that have the things that are limiting them as far as success, a lot of times we don't know what those are, those things that are limiting them. So I just think that we really need to dig into resources and look into ways to get these kids to open up and feel more free about opening up and being more honest and not being uncomfortable and expressing those things. So I think that just resources as far as children with disabilities and how to get in touch with those kids appropriately and really dig into what their issues are.
Okay. Let's move into a role of teachers. And what do you feel the role of the school is in teaching children about certain topics such as like sex education, and that's been around forever. Cyber safety now has been out, but wellness and even bullying or anything else that comes to mind. What do you think the role of the school is in teaching topics like that?
I think that's a very hot topic. I think that it's a question that you could certainly have a gotcha moment with a lot of people. I really think that it needs to be something that is a collaborative effort between parents and teachers. I think that it's too hot of a topic to just attack it with one viewpoint and not have a balance there and take everybody's thoughts into consideration. I think some things are better left unsaid, but a lot of things these days you can't. It's just out there, and if it's left unsaid, they're going to find out about it anyway.
Let's talk about changes in the public education system. Do you see that there needs to be any changes on the state level, maybe even the local level?
Not any maybe changes per se, but I think that, and I've looked at some test scores recently as far as how we compare to other districts in the area, and I've noticed that in some areas we're doing rather well, and in some places we're doing not quite as well as other districts. So I just think that really examining those things and taking responsibility for where we're falling short, and then in turn looking at where we're being successful and look at how we're being successful in those areas and see if it applies to where we're falling short. And I'm sure there's really great people that are already doing that, but that's just one idea that I have. And if we're doing it already, great, let's continue and try harder.
Okay. Let's go back to a few questions about the board's responsibility and what you feel the board's responsibility is. If you're a school board, get on the school board as a member, do you feel there's a difference in what they do versus maybe what the administration or the superintendent does? That the superintendent does go to the boards of education, but they do different roles. What do you think the responsibilities, are they the same, are they different?
The board kind of implements, and then the district carries out what's implemented, I think. And I guess I'm a little bit puzzled on the question. I
Sure.
mean, I know that they have two different roles. I know the board decides what budget, what the budget is and where the budget, how much budget goes where, and policy and goals, and we need to track our progress towards those goals. I guess one of the biggest things that I'm looking at when I'm running for the school board is progress, and progress is typically a good thing, but I think that we also need to examine progress and changes made in the name of progress before actually implementing them, because I really feel like a lot of things that are done in the name of progress kind of take 2 steps back. I'm not a big technology person. I feel like the more technology that we have, it creates a little bit of a wall socially. The more we get deep into our electronics and technology. Not to say that technology and advancement in technology isn't a good thing as well, but I think that there's dangers in it as well as far as building a social divide. So I think that we really need to dissect the progress before we implement it and make sure it's the right thing.
Okay. Let's talk about when a board member has to vote, and they would vote no, but you want yes, or vice versa. How do you support something that you voted no on? How about that? Are you able to work with people on that and come up with a plan if they're not voting the way you want them to vote?
Well, there's a board for a reason. It's not just a one-person board. It's people vote and people get appointed to these seats, and that's the beauty of it. And any governing body, the idea is to have a balance. Sometimes the people who have this point of view are going to get their way. Sometimes the other half that has this point of view are going to get their way. It's all about keeping a balance, and I think that that's healthy.
Okay.
So I think that if things don't go my way, I think that I can just chalk it up as a healthy balance and be okay with that and keep on rolling along and hope to maintain healthy relationships with the people who came out on the good end of what they were hoping would happen.
Sure, right. I got another question to come up after about should they vote for you? Should they not vote for you? Tell me about that. But first, do you feel that our city here is going in the right direction for the school system? The city itself, the community, maybe even the government, are they going in the right direction?
I believe that I'd prefer to just speak about our city. I'm out in the community. I have a lot of friends. I'm in my 40s, so I have a lot of friends who have students, in school. Their children are in school. So I feel like I'm pretty well in touch with things, and I've stated earlier that my daughter loves school. I think the school system is doing a really great job, but at the same time, I also believe that there's that wall of between the communication between the parents and teachers, and the lack of trust that's been that's developed. And until we see that restored, I don't want to claim total success. And I just really want to work towards restoring that trust and building a great relationship between the parents and the teachers and the school board, so that we can all feel like we're all being held accountable for the success of the students.
All right. Well, this is a chance that you can talk to our voters out there. Why are you the right candidate for the job of school board?
Well, I'm really looking forward to serving our community more than I have been. I take a lot of pride in what I do in my career, and I want that to translate into serving our community and help maintain a great learning environment for not only my child, but the children of the entire community, regardless of which school they're in or how old they are. And I know that there's a lot of parents out there who agree with me that there have been some things that have developed and with the pandemic and you know, a lot of people are, sounds like a taboo subject, you know, as far as politics, and I'm not looking to bring politics to this school board in any way whatsoever, but we are in a very politically charged environment. It's just undeniable, and we have to acknowledge that. We need to keep them the priority and keep their success our priority. So I really think that that's what I'm aiming to do is I guess if I were to have a campaign, I have these signs made up that I just got the other day that says putting our future first, but I think that another campaign slogan, now that we've had this conversation, could maybe be restore the trust. So I think that's really what I'm aiming to do.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for coming, Steven. I appreciate it. Okay. And get out there and vote. And I want to thank again Steven for coming for one of the 7 candidates for the school board for Get to Know Your Candidate. Thanks for joining us.